core of what this Rolling Thunder thing is all about. And I don't have a clue, because it's about nothing. It's just something that happened 40 years ago.
Of what this Rolling Thunder thing is all about. And I have no idea what it's about. That event took place 40 years ago. Bob Dylan has been a huge star in music for many years. He writes poetry, is a rebel, and speaks for a whole age. Many artists have been inspired by him to pick up a guitar or write a verse. His impact cuts across generations and genres. Even though he was famous, not all rock stars were eager to work with him in the studio. One is Mick Jagger, the electric lead singer of the Rolling Stones, who just said why the band didn't want to work with Dylan. How come these two great artists can't work together? Was it fear or envy? Come with us as we show you Dylan's rise and rock stout. Bob Dylan wasn't like other musicians. By the middle of the 1960s he had gone from being a wandering folk singer to a culture lightning rod whose words cut through the chaos of the time. Dylan was born on May 24, 1941 as Robert Allen Zimmerman in Duluth, Minnesota. His early life was normal. He grew up in a simple Jewish home and was a quiet kid who found comfort in blues and country music on the radio. Strange things started to happen when he picked up a guitar and started writing songs on it. When he got to Greenwich Village in New York in 1961 he was like a sponge. He soaked up the raw energy of the folk scene and used it to make songs that would soon be heard all over the world. Not only did songs like Blowing in the Wind and The Times They Are A-Changin' capture the mood of the civil rights movement, they made it what it was. Dylan did more than just write songs. He was a prophet. When he was at his best, all artists except rock bands wanted to work with him. But why? Did they understand something that no one else did? Keep reading to find out. However, Jagger would later say that the answer was a mix of respect, fear, and realistic considerations. Dylan was both a hero and a problem because of this. The music world of the 1960s and 1970s was full of egos and high testosterone. Working together often meant giving in. But Dylan didn't give in. His goal was clear, but his process was disorganized, and it was hard to figure out who he was. Jagger made it sound like working with Dylan would be like stepping into a whirlwind where you couldn't really control anything. That being said, it wasn't just about attitude. Dylan's process for making music was like a maze. People who worked with him on recordings talk about how he liked being spontaneous. It got harder to understand him as his fame grew. Mick Jagger, on the other hand, was a different kind of rock star. He was born on July 26, 1943 in Dartford, England. He had a troubled mind and an even more troubled stage appearance. Jagger was the swagger and risk of rock and roll as the lead singer of the Rolling Stones. The Stones were the rough alternative to the Beatles' smooth charm. They were formed in 1962 by Keith Richards, Brian Jones, and a rotating group of other musicians. Some of his songs like Paint It Black and I Can't Get No Satisfaction were racy, and Jagger's slinky lip-curling performances made him a draw. By the late 1960s the Stones were famous all over the world, and their music was the soundtrack to an age that was breaking rules. Still, even though they were all around the same age and respected Dylan's work, Jagger and his friends didn't work together. The question kept coming up. Why? Dylan had an obvious effect on people. The Beatles said that he helped them write better songs. Along the top, Jimi Hendrix made a volcanic work of art. His plan gave even the Byrds their folk rock sound. That being said, why didn't rock stars like Jagger want to work with him? Reports of Dylan's unsteady approach to music scared the rockers, who were very focused on getting things done. Dylan's style clearly didn't fit with what they were going for, as shown by the time he shocked his band by going electric in 1965, without telling them ahead of time at the Newport Folk Festival. He then plugged in his guitar and let out a sound that mixed the tales of folk music with the raw power of rock. Dylan's music was intellectual, unpredictable, and wild, which was not something the rockers were ready to deal with. A lot of people thought he was brilliant. Others saw him as a mystery wrapped in a puzzle. He was smart, but he also had a dark side that could turn people off as well as inspire them. Listen to Highway 61 Revisited, which was released in 1965. Al Kooper and Mike Bloomfield, two musicians, remember Dylan coming to a show with words that weren't finished yet, barking vague instructions and expecting the band to keep up with him as he improvised. The result was great songs like a Rolling Stone, which changed the way rock songs could sound, but the process was frustrating. You have to figure it out and play like it's raining, he would tell you. Cooper used to laugh. For a band like the Rolling Stones, where Jagger's singing and Richard's riffs made the music sound great together, Dylan's style could seem like an attack on their identity. Then there was the question of height. It wasn't just music for Dylan by the late 1960s. He wasn't real. After almost dying in a motorcycle accident in 1966, he went to Woodstock and came back with the band carrying the strange basement tapes. Every move he made and every word he spoke were watched closely. If you worked with him, you might get lost in the crowd, which rock stars like Jagger didn't like because they had worked hard to make their stories. Jagger said, "We all loved Bob. You didn't want to be the guy who was in his way though. He always made things about himself, even when he wasn't trying to." Fear was there, but there was also respect. Jagger never claimed that Dylan had an effect on the Stones. The way Dylan mixed protest and art in songs like Street Fighting Man was very important. Richards also said that Dylan was the real deal at one point. Even so, respect didn't turn into a relationship. Was the choice to stay away personal, or was it a matter of staying alive? He had his own country, while the Stones had theirs. Jagger would later say that crossing those lines was risky and not many people were willing to do it. When ideas clash, by the 1970s, Bob Dylan's mystery had gotten even stronger. After stepping away from the public eye, after his motorbike accident in 1966, he came back with a new sound that was rougher, more introspective and often vague. Albums like John Wesley Harding and Nashville Skyline showed a softer side, with country-tinged ballads instead of electric rage. But Dylan stayed a unique person, a chameleon, who didn't fit the mold even as he changed. When Mick Jagger and the Rolling Stones were riding high on hits like Sticky Fingers and Exile on Main Street, Dylan's uncertainty was both a draw and a risk that they couldn't avoid. The ideas Jagger had about why rock bands didn't like Dylan weren't just guesses, they were made during real-life interactions. Want to know about the people he met? Watch out. There was one of these times in 1972 when the Stones were in New York after a successful tour of the U.S. Dylan rarely came to the city because he was living a quieter life upstate at the time. People told each other that he showed up to a late-night jam session at a downtown club with his guitar ready to play. It was Jagger there, along with a few other famous rock stars. Instead of working together in a unique way, they got into a telling fight. We all just watched as he started to play something. No one knew where Jagger was going with it. He said later, "A lot of people in the room thought it was great. We lost the other half. I didn't jump in. It didn't feel right. It wasn't about ego that night." Jagger said it had to do with beat. The Stones did best in a groove, a close-knit harmony that made their live shows even better. Worked on a different wavelength though. His speed changed in the middle of a song and his lyrics went off on vague tangents. When he had a band, they were supposed to follow along without knowing what was going on. The rock bands also didn't want to work with Dylan because he was known as a studio risk. When Dylan recorded Blood on the Tracks in 1975, even seasoned pros didn't understand how he did it. He would change musicians at the last minute, rewrite songs on the spot, and throw out takes that other people thought were great. Kevin Odegaard, a guitarist who played on the sessions, said that Dylan threw away a finished song because it didn't feel right. The record became a classic, but the chaos shocked everyone who worked on it. This was a red flag for Jagger, who had been in charge of the Stones' careful production on records like Goat's Head Soup. He said that we'd spend days getting a sound just right. Bob would be able to take it all apart in no time. We didn't work that way. Still, there were times when the gap got smaller. Live Aid, the worldwide show led by Bob Geldof, made a lot of noise in the music world in 1985. Dylan and Jagger both signed up, which made people hope that they would perform together. They ran into each other backstage in Philadelphia. Jagger was wearing a neon jacket, and Dylan was wearing a leather coat and looked like he had come from another era. Fans hoped for a duo, but it never happened. Dylan went on stage with Ron Wood and Keith Richards playing backup. He sang Blowin' in the Wind in a sloppy way that made reviewers cringe. From the stands, Jagger watched. He chose to do his solo set with Tina Turner instead. The mess at Live Aid brought up another issue, Dylan's live volatility. He would jump around between keys, skip lines, or make songs last for hours. It wasn't worth the risk for a leader like Jagger, who could control crowds with choreographed ease. "You need to know what your partner is going to do next," he said. Beyond the stage, there was a less obvious image of a divide. The Stones had a bad boy image, all leather and excess, while Dylan was more intellectual and almost ascetic. A partnership could make those names less clear. In 1986, Dylan asked a group of rock musicians to join what would become the Traveling Wilburys, but Jagger turned down Dylan's friendly invitation. There were only 3 singers who joined: Jagger, George Harrison, and Tom Petty. He said, "That wasn't my scene. I have my crew, and Bob has his." It didn't work to mix it up. The Wilburys did very well, but Jagger didn't think his strut belonged in Dylan's strange supergroup. The gulf got bigger in the 1990s and 2000s. Dylan was happy with his never-ending tour, which he saw as a hard, low-key journey that kept him on the road. The Stones' paths went in different directions as they got bigger. Think of Bridges to Babylon's huge screens and fireworks, but Jagger kept an eye on them. Today it's Jagger and Dylan. Mick Jagger and Bob Dylan are live legends of rock's golden age. They are both doing well in their own way, but their paths are connected by history. At age 81, Jagger is still a force that defies the years and keeps the Rolling Stones a worldwide phenomenon. Dylan, who is now 83 years old, is still very busy. His voice is a worn-out growl, and his pen is still sharp. He is enjoying a late career renaissance that no one could have expected. Did the fact that they wouldn't work together hurt any of their careers? Keep reading to find out. The question of collaboration may have faded into the rearview, but their current trajectories show why Jagger's wariness and that of other rockers continued, even as both men cemented their legacies in the twilight of their lives. Jagger's 2025 is a whirlwind of action. The Rolling Stones, fresh off their 2024 Hackney Diamonds tour, are back on the road, packing stadiums with a set list that blends classics like Gimme Shelter with new cuts that pulse with raw energy. Hackney Diamonds was their first album of original songs since 2005, and it went straight to #1 on the charts in the UK. Its lead single, Angry, even got Grammy talk. The critics are amazed at how strong Jagger is. He still moves his hips back and forth, his voice is clear, and he feels in charge of the stage. He told a crowd in Los Angeles last month, "I'm not slowing down," and flashed that famous grin. He's still as restless as ever because he's working on music projects, helping out younger bands, and even teasing a solo EP when he's not performing. The Stones machine works perfectly, which shows that Jagger has always been able to lead the band through chaos. The rivalry between him and Keith Richards, who is now 81 years old, is still strong, just like it was in the 1960s. The third person is Ronnie Wood, the new guy, who is 77 years old. When they play live, they show how to rock out for a long time. But Jagger's current success shows why he never took a chance on working with Dylan. While this is going on, Dylan is growing in a way that goes against the norm. He has been on his never-ending tour since 1988. He has already played 2,025 shows in Europe and North America. The 2020 release of Rough and Rowdy Ways from last year is still having an impact. People have said that the dark, sprawling songs like Murder Most Foul are some of his best work in decades. When Dylan isn't on the road, his creative spark still lives on. He's drawing again, and his abstract pieces sell for a lot of money in galleries. His book from 2022, The Philosophy of Modern Song, is still a bestseller, breaking down songs by Elvis to The Clash through his own unique lens. Their fights over their health add another layer to their present. Jagger had surgery on his heart valve in 2019 and could have been out for a while, but he came back strong and was back in the gym and on stage within months. In the 2010s, rumors of Dylan's weakness followed him around like they did with Storm, but his constant traveling shows that he's stronger than he seems. In 2024 he quickly rescheduled shows with a short note that said, "I'll be there." Both men are strong, but they show their strength in different ways. Jagger's victory in public, and Dylan's quiet refusal to give up. In the year 2025, Jagger's earlier unwillingness to work with Dylan seems like a sign. Big screens are a big part of the Rolling Stones' most recent tour. On Sweet Sounds of Heaven, guest stars like Lady Gaga. Dylan's shows are simple, just him and a small band, no extras, almost like monasteries. Now working together would be like a battle of empires,
with Jagger's showmanship going up against Dylan's reflection. Yet there's a late thaw in their relationship. At a 2023 benefit show in New York, they shared a backstage laugh, Jagger praising Dylan's latest record, Dylan nodding at the Stones' staying power. No jam session followed, but the conversation hinted at mutual respect. Aged and tough, their effects go beyond what they did. Jagger's impact can be heard in bands like The Killers and Arctic Monkeys, who strut and sneer like him. Dylan's shadow can be seen in songwriters like Phoebe Bridgers and Father John Misty, who try to reach the poetic depth of his work. The Stones' music has sold billions of copies, and Satisfaction is still a societal touchstone. Dylan, on the other hand, won the Nobel Prize in Literature in 2016 and an Oscar for Things Have Changed in 2001. Make his unique height official, they don't need each other to shine. One truth that Jagger understood right away was that working together might have hurt their brands instead of helping them. These days social media helps them reach more people. When Jagger posts on social media about the band's activities and tour updates, it keeps fans interested. But when Dylan tweets, which are usually just song lyrics or tour plans, they cause a lot of debate. Dylan's "The Past is a Bucket of Ashes" post from January 2025 got a lot of likes, and Jagger's "See You in Berlin" got a lot of hits. It hasn't cost either of them much that they won't work together. The rock stars who avoided Dylan's circle built their own worlds. The time for those countries to shine is over, and now they stand tall, separate but equal. Their masters are still in charge. What do you believe about the rockers' choice? As they grew, did it help them reach their peak? Leave your thoughts in the box below. Don't forget to like our video and follow us. Also click on the screen to see the next movie. Don't miss it.